Hello good people. So I've been editing for like 4 years straight, and it's weird because with each single video edit you kind of discover something new, you learn something along the way. So today let's talk about some of the techniques that you can do for your edits to make them stand out, to make them unique, and to just really encourage yourself to do something different on every single video. But before we get into that, this has to go. This is too much hair. Let's get a haircut. Oh yeah, new hair, new edit. Let's go. Wow, it is snowing outside. It's so beautiful. I'm a bit chilly though. Yeah, this is better. All right guys, so we got a lot of things to talk about that I hope you find useful, but first, a message from our sponsor. Check out the outstanding K7XX open style headphones by Massdrop and AKG with beautiful design, lightweight, and perfectly comfortable with incredible sound signature and a well-rounded price too. Join the drop, linked below. Alright, let's begin. The number one thing to do is to clean your space before you edit. This is something that obviously is kind of a given, and you can check out our video on top 5 tips on how to clean your space for cheap. Some tips in there that hopefully will carry over, but a clean space means a clean edit, and if you're working in a messy environment, then your edit might come out messy as well. For number 2, a very important point of feedback is to review your footage before you start to edit. This way you kind of get pumped about like seeing really cool visuals and get your creative juices flowing. So for me, that means dropping the footage into the timeline and just review things that I've captured for a particular video that I'm working on. But more importantly, working with really good visuals generally contributes to a really good edit too. As I said in the intro, I've been editing for so long that if you want to see my techniques on how to become a more efficient editor in actual software, let me know using proxies, trimming, storyboarding, in and out points, shortcuts, and all that. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments below. Now, one of the easiest things I realized to eliminate that daunting feeling of like editing a 15-minute video is to edit things in chunks. So for me, I used to perhaps maybe edit a little body time-lapse sequence, but most recently I tried to go in and just finish my introduction, so that the introduction is very important to draw the viewer in. So I choose my music, I sort of piece together this little cool sequence, and it really gets me pumped up for the rest of the video. But more importantly, once my introduction is ready, I can really kind of focus on finishing up the rest of the video. And this way, if you're editing in chunks, that means you actually have more time to spend to refine it. So if you have the intro ready, some body portions ready too, and then when you piece together everything, you have a bit more time to process on how things work, especially because you have those other chunks completed and all fine to go. Instead, if you're sitting down for an 8-hour edit and you do the whole thing from 0 to 100, you're gonna make mistakes, you're gonna get tired of looking at that timeline, of course, unless it's finished, but you need that time to separate yourself from your final edit so that you can review it back a little bit later and fix those little mistakes that you perhaps didn't see when completing that whole thing in 8 hours or so. Next is experiment with transitions. So in the introduction video, you saw already 2 of them with me covering up the hand, and it's a really good transition in terms of moving from one place to another and having, slight changes in the scene that are not noticeable. But for example, with my haircut transition, you saw that the hair changed, and I had to adjust a little bit of the exposure and color differences between the 2 scenes, but that made it a lot more smoother when I had my hand in front of the lens and completely black out the scene, because that way when I remove the hand, any of those changes are really not noticeable to the viewer. And the second transition, of course, is the clap. I'm a bit chilly though. Yeah, this is better. Or having some audio cues in the scene that introduce a little stuttering element into the shot. That way you can include something else into it. So for example, me putting on the sweater, and that whole ties in with the winter scene that I included the shot prior, so that you feel like, yeah, there's snow, there's winter, but why is this guy in the t-shirt? So I decided to include that and though it ties to the story and it gives you a really nice sort of transition effect. You can also do motion transitions using camera movement. So for example, in this scene with the forest and the tree on the right side, because I'm moving into it, I created the same scene where I'm moving into my studio, and so having this smooth transition from forest into studio is less, you know, jarring than if you were to just cut in the middle. And having those 2 points of edge blackouts is really important because I can simply piece them together and have this nice and smooth transition from one scene to the next. Or you can do really fast pans up and down or left and right, and because of that natural motion blur, it creates that really perfect transition point into which you can blend the next shot, and it just looks seamless and really good. Next thing is, don't be afraid to play around with aspect ratios. Everything is delivered in 16:9, which is a beautiful aspect ratio, but for certain segments of your video, or if you're having a different color grade, or if you have like slow motion in there, why not go ultra wide or even 4:3 to give that video just a different genre of what you're trying to deliver. Now, important thing to remember with aspect ratios is to not overdo it, and simply going ultra wide does not make it cinematic, but use it to your advantage to guide the viewer into certain portions of your footage, because obviously you're cropping things, and because you know most likely you're shooting in 16:9, it allows you to do cool motion stuff. So you can do pans within that crop and then really guide the viewer into certain segments of that frame to, you know, basically tell your story better. So next one is important because it took me a while to realize, but learn to let go. I normally shoot a lot of B-roll and delete everything that I don't think is worthy for the edit in camera, so that anything that I import into my Premiere timeline is like good to go footage. But sometimes things don't fit. Sometimes the footage that, you know, some particular shot is awesome, but I've used something similar to it in the edit somewhere else, and therefore it just really doesn't fit within certain sequence, within the edit itself. So just be fine with that and learn to let go of not using some of the footage. And the last very important one revolves around feedback. So feedback is critical to any video editor. Even though you may think you're a perfectionist, it's really good to get, you know, 2 feedback gurus that will not just say your work is fantastic, but will actually give you constructive feedback on perhaps the music choice in the intros, certain transitions, certain elements of that sequence that may not be in place or feel kind of out of, you know, out of order and stuff. And that's important because once you get out of that nirvana of like completing your edit and you feel so proud of it and it's so awesome, you know, that excitement really clouds your mistakes, and having that external feedback is crucial, and you have to realize that. So I think that covers up my thoughts on how to become a more efficient and productive and creative editor, from the creative side of things to the production side of things as well. So let me know if you want to see the whole techniques video regarding the software in the comments, because I really want to share my thinking about like what I do that makes my process so efficient and fast and enjoyable. But I hope you enjoyed the tips that were included in this video, and share your own with the community. I'm sure we have a lot of people who would love to hear that. So I'm Dmitry, thanks so much for watching. We'll see you in the next video.